Welcome to Whispers, everybody, on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. It is 6:09 p.m. Yeah, that's right. We're on a few hours early on a different day. It's 23 degrees out. Still cold. Schools are all closing down still again for like the fourth day in a row.
This has been really strange. I've been to West Liberty for 6 years. I have never had 3 days off because of snow.
And believe this, Lola, he's not going for a doctorate.
No, okay, it's probably been about 5 years.
And I thought, if people accused me of being a professional student.
Okay, well, I'm going for secondary education. I'm going for 5. Yeah, hey.
I'm just saying.
English and social science both. So I had to do both of them. So I wanted to do both of them so I could get
exactly,
a job.
Lola.
Hey, I'm hoping to get out of school, get a job, and not have to worry about.
Hopefully, it'd be 6 years of your life wasted.
I hope not. That'd be horrible.
I'm thinking more of the dollar amount.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Now give us a call 304-214-1600. If you're out of the area, listen to us. It's toll free 1-866-514-1600.
Very good. And if you like us in this time slot, please let the station bosses that be know, because we certainly like this time slot.
So make sure you call in.
Right?
Anybody?
I thought you were going to get quiet, like, okay, we're waiting for it.
No, I'm just saying, period. During the week, anytime you care to drop a line by email or a snail mail or a phone call, if you like us in this time slot, let people know.
You really like this time slot too, right?
Well, yeah. I mean,
we get home, decent hour.
Hey, everybody, if you haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, on May 22nd, 2009, Friday night, we have the West Virginia Penitentiary booked all night just for us.
Oh, my God.
And Lola will be there.
I will.
With bells on.
Well, and with Sammy. Sammy's going to do this, too.
Sammy's going. I've heard Biff is being forced to go.
John's making Biff go.
Oh,
he doesn't know if he's going to do it.
Biff, I love you, but, honey, I don't know about that one. I don't know. Well, they do have a safe area, right? If you really don't want to do this.
Yes, there's all kinds of safe places in the prison.
Well, I thought, isn't there an area where, like, in the front, like the initial waiting room that's not actually, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Because somebody else said that people.
They won't pass over the doorway.
Yeah. And if you believe that one, garlic will keep you safe, too.
Only for vampires.
That don't work. Haven't you been watching True Blood? None of that stuff works.
I tried to watch. It was okay, I guess. But the biggest pull, I guess, was the I can't remember the girl's name off of. She's from X-Files. She was
Gillian Anderson?
No, not X-Files. X-Men. I get them confused.
I hate you.
Yeah, sorry. It was the girl that played Rogue.
Oh, okay.
She's in that. So.
I don't know anything about that.
She's the main character.
Nerds.
The girl. She was in. What is her real name? She was in The Piano and things like that as a younger girl.
I'd have to look her up.
Okay, so with the pen back on track, Nikolai, we only have 17 spots left. So, Nick.
I think that's 16 spots left.
Well, that's if we can get Biff going.
If Biff goes, we have 16 spots.
So you're thinking to yourself, man, I really want to go. How do I do this? Nick, how do we do this?
Well, if you go to our website, whispers012909.mp3, and I'll go there now, and you'll see at the top it says, join Whispers on a ghost hunt. You click on that, you read through the wonderful text there, there's a picture. It says we have 17 spots left at the top, and at the bottom it says buy now, and you go through PayPal, so it's very secure.
Okay, I have a favor. Barb and her daughter
do
not have internet access. I need you to take up 2 slots, one for Barb and one for Trish.
No,
they will drop a check off.
I think I got it.
And I told them to kind of hold off on, I mean,
yeah, I already have their numbers here.
Okay, good. So they're in there. So we still have 17, or now we have 15?
No, I actually, because the last time they called, they gave their number, and I was going to call them this week to make sure they were still in.
So
they're in. So we have 15 slots
14
left.
if Biff comes. I know 2 people.
Is John going? Did John say he
John's
was going?
coming.
Oh, brother.
What?
Do you think he's going to be able to handle it?
What are you afraid
He'll
of?
be it. I'm not. John will torment you.
What is your fear?
We'll just lock him in a cell. Because
Well,
we can do
that's
that.
the thought.
Yeah, that would be
That's the
awesome. I think we might try to do that to everybody. And then take pictures.
That'd be amusing.
Yeah.
Get an infrared camera, a night vision camera, so you can really see the tears pouring down their faces. They're going, "Oh, Jesus, get me out of here.
Lola, save me."
They did that to us, I think, on the night tour. One of the night tours we went on. They
Locked
like
us
everybody
in.
get in the cell, and then they pulled down in the general population area, and we're kind of in there. But there's like 3 people in there, and they're like, well, they actually did put 3 people in each of these cells at times.
There's only 2 beds.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting a bed. I don't care who sleeps on the toilet. I'm getting a bed. What's her name
sports
coming
space.
with us?
Who's this?
The
Sherry?
yeah.
Haven't got a hold of her yet. Tried calling her the other night, so we'll see.
I'm hoping she does. She's got some real connections.
Oh,
there.
she's fun. She's fun.
Yeah, we've got a lot of different people. We have some people from Cannonsburg that have signed up.
No,
to go.
Chambersburg.
Why do I keep confusing those?
Because you're halfway, kind of need a helmet before you leave the house.
Almost. And then we have some people from family actually that want to go of ours from South Carolina that found out about it. They're wanting to come up, so they might take up 2 spots. We haven't included those in the total yet.
Hey,
Are we
spots are going.
limited to only
30? Only
that's
30,
it.
and that's us adding 10 extra to their limit.
Yeah,
So,
They'll let us do that.
yeah, and
Oh,
it
okay.
costs a lot more.
It
So,
now I wonder why that is.
well,
They got to pay more ghosties to come and terrorize. Or something?
I think all the money goes to restoring the pen.
Oh,
I'm working
I see.
on it.
Yeah, well.
So
and
yeah, it's
somebody's
a
got
little
to
bit
be
of-
there tonight at night when we're there. They've got how many people different prison people? There's 3 or 4 usually there. So they got to
Yeah.
pay their salary for being there overnight and babysitting us. In case.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a lot of fun. They don't go in walking around after you. I mean,
They're
they
just
pretty much-
there.
The saddest part was we were there and there's this lady, a little older, kind of short,
Yeah.
and she comes walking through with a little flashlight, and we're all kind of terrified, and she's walking through just by herself, and I'm thinking that is a brave woman.
nerves of steel.
Yeah, and I would never
Nick
do
screaming like a woman. I'm not saying Lola that you would scream, but I mean like high pitched
that. I only screamed at the
when there
bats.
was bats.
That's
Bats
well.
can-
Now that
bats
may
can
do it
attack
to
you.
me. But
So here's what you can expect when you go. We have a tour. You'll be going on a tour. All the areas. I mean, places are going to be unlocked for us that are not allowed on regular tours. So you are going to be able to see the pen like most people have never seen. We are going to have a quick ghost hunting class. Teach people what to do, how to use the equipment. But we're hoping if we can get the 30 people that we'll have a little bit extra after we do that to buy equipment for everybody.
Oh, good.
We're trying. We're working on that.
At least for all the groups.
Yeah, at least some equipment we can purchase, and we'll be able to teach you how to use it all, what to do, and then we're gonna have a ghost hunting group there with us that you can actually learn from, go through with, and then
I think
we'll
everybody
set
on
you
that's
off.
been through the prison too, Erica.
And then we are gonna set you off. You can walk around in teams of 2, groups of 5, 10, whatever.
Yeah.
You have free
Cool.
reign,
We'll
reign of
put
the
you
entire
with Biff
building.
and John. Put
You can
Lilith
keep
and
Biff
John.
safe.
How much is this tour?
$45. It
Yeah.
is the usual. The usual price is $60 to $70. So we have to pay too. So it's not like a.
It's not like Jordan's taking your money and running halfway across the country. That's as far as the gas we're getting. But
This isn't a money making trip. This is for us to spend some time with you guys in a really awesome place.
and plus, we've been wanting to go to
Okay.
the prison.
Now, while we're there,
Okay.
everybody is going to need A, nourishment, and B, refreshments. Are we allowed to take our own nourishment and refreshment?
No alcohol, Lola.
No alcohol.
How is one supposed to get through this with
Lola,
no beer?
Why bring your own spirits when there's spirits there?
Oh, that's a pretty good
Ooh.
line.
Uh-huh.
That's a good
See?
line.
See?
Oh.
See? Now, hopefully we're able to get some pizza, some water and stuff for people. Bring your own water, whatever you want to bring. Other than
You can keep your stuff in the front lobby so that we're not trashing up the rest of the pin.
dirtying it up. Yeah.
We'll have to spend the second half of the tour cleaning up after everybody. Yeah, we want to have some fun too.
Absolutely.
But
yeah. Me don't do floors.
No alcohol.
You don't want to do these floors.
No drugs. Laws of the land apply, even though you're.
And I think that's the prison's rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
We're going to respect the prison's rules, but bring a flashlight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's very important. If you have a video camera, a picture camera, bring those. Digital recorder, like a voice recorder. If you have one, you can get them for like $30 at Walmart. You know.
All right. Now, if we take a because there's a digital recorder here.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got one.
Mm-hmm.
Will that pick up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what we've used to record some of the stuff. You know.
I thought you had to have one of those special.
Nope.
No,
we buy the same equipment that anybody else would use.
That's the same thing. One of the ones we have, I think my Sony actually is just exactly like one of the ones that Ghost Hunter, Taps uses.
Yeah.
So I mean, I put a little bit of money into that one. So.
All right. Well, we'll talk more about this.
Yeah.
Oh, and here comes Doug. Doug Boyd. Didn't you just open the door, or is this the ghost inviting himself?
That's the ghost.
Didn't he just open the door?
Yeah, he's.
Are you going with us to the pen?
Come on, Doug.
Why?
He is shaking his head no.
I know.
Jordan's crying right now.
Doggy.
All right, everybody, let's open up the lines for a while.
John's going. Sammy's going.
What did he say? I didn't hear it.
Karma.
All right.
Karma.
We got 2 hours here, guys. We got a guest coming on at 7. It's 6:20 now. Give us a call. Open lines. We can consider it. Tell us, what is the scariest place that you have ever been? The number here is 304-214-1600. Out of the area, 866-514-1600.
Yeah.
Lola, what's your scariest place you ever been?
Well,
Here?
are you talking ghosties or are you just talking
Anything.
scary?
Scary.
Oh, I don't. Well, growing up, I grew up right across from a cemetery. So, of course, we used to scare ourselves silly by going in there at night, but...
Never saw anything or heard anything?
No. I don't. The ghosts don't like me, or ghosts don't want to communicate with me.
Supposedly there's supposed to be one that's like usually standing right behind you here.
I know,
He
but he never
likes
lets me know. He
You
never
must
lets
scare off
me know.
all the others.
That could be.
Tell him to stay here when we go to the prison.
Here's mine. When you were
yeah.
talking about we get a call. I don't know. I might have to share mine afterwards and see if somebody's got one.
I'm excited, Jordan. You've had some.
Anybody?
She wanted to know if we were gonna have access to the Sugar Shack, and I said, yeah, we've got access
we
to
got
everything.
We get
Warden's
access to
office.
the psychiatric ward upstairs, which is that place is that's one of the scarier places. When you walk into this cavernous room, you can't see the other side. I mean, even with the flashlight, you're barely reaching it.
Oh my God!
And they would put beds in there, from what I understand. And,
I have a friend that works in a psych ward in California, Folsom Prison.
Really?
I can imagine. I mean, it's Folsom. I can imagine what spirits are running around there. And she said those psych hospitals, criminally insane people.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff.
Yeah. The stories she tells. Oh my God. Oh, good.
All right, I want to tell you a story. I was growing up, living in a little town in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
We had the house itself was on a graveyard.
Okay.
I don't know, kind of creepy, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Me and my friends would dare each other to go camp out there. So we'd always have our tent, and we'd like every weekend night we'd be camping out in the middle of the graveyard. How creepy is that? But all the graves were like 100-some years old. Well, anyway, we always thought that it was haunted. We'd always hear stuff going on. I have 2 little brothers, and one of them. We had one room in the house. It was all toys. Well, middle of the night, all these toys would just start going on. I mean,
are you serious?
Oh yeah, the toys would come on. The little toy cars would be pushed along the floor. I mean, you would hear this stuff going crazy like all the time. And there was different points with my little brother that you could you would walk in and he'd still be in his crib fighting, he'd have his little blankie, and he'd be saying, no, my blankie, pulling. And there was
You've never told this story before.
No,
Why
I
have you not
haven't.
told this story before?
I tell some people.
Wow.
I've heard this one
privileged.
before. This was a scary story, though.
Yeah, there's a lot more detail that I haven't went into, but like there was points where like my mom would get freaked out and pull him into the room with her, and you know how little kids can see stuff.
Yes, they
I mean,
can.
I'm, you know,
the older you get, the less you see.
Then she was put him in her room, and like he was like waving, you know, just kind of out in the darkness, and says, "Mommy, say goodnight to the baby. Say goodnight to the baby. Bye, baby." And like turned and faced the wall like that was right next. Bye, baby. And it was the wall that connected that separated her room and his room. Creepy.
And you were skeptical. I mean, you admitted that that's why you got into this initially, was to try and disprove, right? How can you grow up with that kind of stuff and not have at least some? I mean, whoa. Oops. That's
wow,
okay.
Lola,
See,
geez,
that's
just
the
cuss him out.
ghost. That's
are
the
you
ghost.
cussing? What was that? Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more skeptical of the psychic thing, but I do believe that there are people out there that are more in tune, I guess, with other things. Like in this, you know, while we were living in this house, my mom did go to a psychic, and she was like, as soon as she walked in, the psychic says, "What's going on with your house?" Mom says, "I don't know. Why don't you tell me?" You know, and started talking about said there's 2 trees to the left of your house, and there's 3 fallen gravestones under it. You know, they're the ones that are in your house. And started going on and on about how they would like to camp outside with your son and his friend. You know, and she had no clue that I would be I never camped outside. That was the end of that one. But sure enough, we went outside, and there was like a little field with 2 trees kind of hanging out, you know, to the left of our house. And we walked out there, and there was like all kinds of big rocks. And you flip them over, and they were gravestones. And it had like the ages and everything.
Yeah.
2 boys and a girl, you know, real young. That was creepy.
See, I think to me, there's a difference between a medium is somebody that can talk to spirits and that kind of thing. And a psychic, to me at least, was always somebody that said they could see into the future and that kind of stuff. Now, Amanda, that Sherry and I have on every Tuesday, Amanda is a medium. And you've never watched her?
No. Kelly kind of touched on it a little bit last week.
It is the most eerie thing to watch her because, you know, she doesn't have eye contact or anything with the person on the other end of the phone, obviously. So she can't pick up any body language or anything like that from somebody. And when she starts talking to spirit, she takes on the physical characteristics of the person that she's communing with.
Really?
So there are times when she'll get real flushed in the face. Other times her hands will like cripple up as though the person had arthritis or something wrong with it. It's sometimes she sits very, very straight and upright, and other times she's kind of like, you know, hunched. It is eerie.
So wow. Nick, let's hear yours.
I was actually sitting here trying to think because I've heard that story before of yours. I do have one question. How old was your brother?
Man, he was young.
How old were you at this time?
I was in high school.
In high school, so he's.
We got a phone call. Who we got?
We sure do. This is Dustin. Go ahead, Dustin. Right? Is it?
Hello.
It's Dustin, right?
What's your name?
Justin.
Oh, Justin. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you.
Can you turn your radio down a little bit? Or is that? That's not us.
Well, anyway, what's your story? Or not?
Are you there?
I guess. Never mind. Call back
well,
when you.
My scariest place ever being in is in a car with Jordan. That's probably the most terrifying place.
Paco.
Oh, okay. That's your brother.
No.
Oh.
This guy from the firehouse.
Oh.
Philadelphia's finest, everybody. Paco.
Go save a cat.
Oh.
I'm just teasing.
Lola.
What?
That was mean.
It was not. Firemen save kitties all the time.
Jordan, have you ever saved a cat?
If you'd like to make a call.
Oh, you made him.
Oh, well, if he's that touchy, he
You-
couldn't even decide whether he wanted to talk or
I
not.
think he had his radio on. I think he was.
He had his
now you
TV
listen.
on,
Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
but
you just hurt his feelings.
You have to call
well,
him.
you'll
call
tell
him at
you
the
can
break.
tell him I'm sorry.
Go comfort him after
Driving in a car with me, and he's never driven in a car with Nick.
That would be
Now
a
that
scary.
would be scary.
Nick,
I'm not that bad.
Nick is.
You just said that would be scary, and then you come back with that. I'm not that
talking
bad.
Maybe I'm talking about riding with. I'm horrible.
You
Oh,
have
man.
fully admitted this
I have
many
fully
weeks
admitted-
ago.
You know,
Not only is he a horrible driver, but he's terrified of snow.
I know it.
I have a little bit of.
And
we
rain.
were actually talking about this
in
before.
trees, in roads.
and snakes that he might run over.
Yes,
Because
because they'll come right up through the floor of the truck.
They're crafty.
All right, Nick, the scariest place you've ever
Scariest
been.
I was actually thinking. Remember when we went to the Tunnel Green?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're walking back, and this place, the tunnel. You know where Tunnel Green is.
Yeah.
Okay. We go there to do a ghost hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's one of our first ones. I mean, just kind of really just to go out there and just to learn how to do some of this stuff. And we start walking back, and it's late at night. There's people walking on the trail. Some scary looking people on the trail. This is like what, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, well, you got to realize that there's a lot of homeless
Yeah,
that like
there's
to
a
reside.
homeless camp right around there
Well,
somewhere.
They like to reside in the tunnel.
So we're walking back to our car.
Mhm.
Pretty good walk. We're walking towards past Kroger's, and it's really dark, and we're kind of huddled, together, kind of walking, just kind of talking. I think all of us were a little on edge, and this guy rises up on the side of the road, and I'd never been as scared in my mind. I mean, wearing black, he's African American, and it just no idea what it was, and scared us half to death. And Jordan and I,
He like popped up off the side of the hill.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't even see him. He was
and
like
Jordan
in the
and I
trees.
put the one girl that was with us behind us, like, we'll protect you, but we were scared half to death, and the guy just walks past us shaking his head like, like, how dare you, shine your lights in my eyes, kind of thing. We got in our car and left.
So that's the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?
That's the first thing that's popped in my head. I'm thinking, scariest thing that's ever happened to me was probably a snake that jumped up and started chasing me when I got home from Washington, D.C.
It chased him.
This thing jumped up and like coiled up
Yeah.
like in the yard,
Uh-huh.
and
I'm just listening. Stop looking
it
at me
was
like
very
that.
I'm gonna look at Jordan for a while.
Okay.
But, I mean, it raised up like it was gonna lunge. I have a very bad fear of snakes. Did I ever tell you why? Like the worst snake story that ever happened to me?
No, and that's kind of where we were going was,
Okay. Okay. Scariest. Okay.
Okay.
I'm down in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Now, they do have poisonous snakes there.
They do.
They do. I don't know about here.
This concerns a copperhead.
Okay.
So very, very poison. My sister and some of her friends are playing on the floor, playing Monopoly or something, and I'm listening to radio at my desk. My desk there's this power box right up above it,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just sitting there.
Oh, it came in through the...
It came in through the power box, and like my head, maybe 3 or 4 inches from this wall.
Mm-hmm.
The desk was really thin. I see it out of the corner of my eye, coiled up there. And, with its head kind of just right here, almost right at my... And all I see was its tongue flick out like twice. I shrieked like a woman. There you go, Jordan.
You should hear it.
I ran. I jumped over 3 of my sister's friends. Jumped right over them, ran out the door, closed it, and got in my car and left.
Now, you left little girls there.
She was in high school.
But I...
No.
Nick, you're a man.
My
There's
sister...
girls on... All right, young ladies.
Not all of them are girls. There was a guy there.
Well, regardless, you left younger people there as you screeched like a little girl,
Yes.
jumped clear
Yes.
over them, ran out of the house, slamming the door, locking the
I did not
snake
lock
in
the
the
door.
room with the kids, didn't tell them probably why
Locking
you
the
were
door
leaving, and you ran away in your car.
Locking the door
But
would've
but
taken
the
way
key
too
to
much
this
time.
story, hold on, Nick, you're not allowed to talk anymore. The key to this
Jordan
is
knows
he
this.
got in his car and drove away.
Right.
Why?
Snakes are
Because
crafty. It could have followed me.
it would have.
I am morbidly
Jordan, didn't you remember that?
Oh,
I am
man.
morbidly afraid of snakes. I don't like them. There's more to this story that makes me seem even worse.
Well, then, pray tell.
Well, let's hear it.
Her one of the friends there was a girl and a guy.
And they're the ones who caught the snake and took it out of the house.
No, the girls ran outside as well. I think they tried to come after me. But the boy that was with them is sort of effeminate. I won't go any further.
Okay.
And he did try to get the snake out, which made me feel really bad. So, and yes.
Wow.
So it was really
humiliating. Can
very
we
humiliating.
spell that word?
He did help me. See, I lived in the forest. He did help me one time catch.
In the forest.
I lived in the forest.
He knows where I used to live.
Was it the woods or
The woods.
yeah, the woods, not
okay,
a forest.
Sorry, but one time he also helped me catch a possum that got into my house. So we drove it down the road and deposited it somewhere. So, alive, we didn't kill it.
Well, that's good. You could have had dinner. You know.
I didn't think I could. Oh, I was listening to that show the other day.
Ew.
I have eaten raccoon though.
I've eaten
good.
muskrat before.
Really? Oh.
I don't even know what one looks like. I probably don't want to know.
No, you don't.
It's got rat in the name. That's worse.
Yeah, I think they're all kind of like the same family there.
When I was working at Jim Robinson, there was this guy, and he's passed away by now. Passed away, but they were all telling me one day, this is right when I first started, he's like, you gotta get Mitch to go outside and call the muskrats for you. You know, that all day they were talking about, Mitch can call the muskrats, you know. So, I mean, it went on for 2 or 3 hours, and finally I'm like, you know what, Mitch, come out and show me how you can call the muskrats. So we walk outside, and he gets out there, and he gets his, kind of gets into position, then he yells, hey, muskrats!
All right, we got a phone call. Please save Nick.
Yeah.
Who we got?
This is Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Hello?
Hi.
You're there. What is up?
Bill, are you there?
Nope, he hung up.
Oh, wow.
Bill, are you with us?
Bill, call back.
I don't know.
He heard me say save Nick, and he says no.
Yeah.
No.
There is no saving.
Is this Bill back?
I hope it's Bill back. I don't want to lose it.
Bill. Hello?
Hello?
There we go. Hi.
Are you there, Bill?
You're on the air.
You must be having some. Seems
I
like there's
don't-
a delay in the.
No.
No.
All right, somebody call in. We can at least fix this phone line thing. 304-214-1600. Toll free 866-514-1600.
Yeah, I can't think of a place.
Bill,
really,
if you're with us, give us a call back.
Yeah, I got to figure out what's up before we get a guest. Try to get a guest.
I can't think of a place where I was actually the most scared to go. I mean, it's we went to a lot of places that are supposed to be scary. I've never found one that was extremely scary. So I can't. I don't know. We're gonna try Bill
All right,
again.
let's try this again. Bill, are you there? Bill? He can't.
No.
He can't hear us. All right, I got to figure out what's
All right, well,
wrong.
let's go ahead and take a break. We'll see maybe if we can get that fixed, and we'll come back. Sound good?
Yeah, that'll work.
All right, everybody, call in 304-214-1600.
here.
Let's see if we can get this fixed. You're listening to AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. Welcome back, everybody, to AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. You're listening to Whispers Radio. We got a little bit of technical difficulty we're trying to work through right now with our phone lines.
Okay, Dougie, are you there?
I'm there and I can hear you.
Oh,
All
good.
right.
Okay.
Phone
Well,
line's fixed.
it is. You're a genius, Doug. You're a genius. I think you should go to the pen with us.
Actually, I remember turning it off so John couldn't hear me talk in the studio while he was on. So.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's how you get rid of that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Now I know. Okay.
Dougie sabotaged.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Doug.
Dougie.
No problem.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, give us a call. Finally, we'll be able to hear you. 304-214-1600, 866-514-1600. Tell us the scariest place you've ever been.
Okay, this is Bill.
Bill, how you doing?
Finally, yeah, maybe there is a ghost in your building down there.
Maybe.
Oh. Now, when you go to the pen,
Uh-huh.
You're not allowed to take a dog or a cat, are you? Because couldn't they tell if there was a ghost in the area?
I don't know because of the amount of people that they will allow pets. Because
that's what they always say, though, right? That
yeah, they say that, like, especially cats. I've heard cats are very open to other things. I know my dog barks at random things that nobody else can see.
Like familiars.
Now, I would love it if there was a ghost or a demon or a vampire or a lichen or something. I think it would be neat. But when you went through that tunnel green, was that after they put lights in there?
It was. That we were really messed.
I've been in there. I've been in tunnel green because I heard about the murder that was in there before they ever put a walking trail there, and I went in by myself at night on purpose, trying to get scared, but it just never happened. That's when there was no lights in there and nothing.
And see, our story happened after we'd left. We were about halfway between where our parking was.
Yeah.
So no lights on the trail itself. But when we got in there, we were really disappointed. It's like, oh, there's lights.
Now there's an old cemetery above that.
Yeah. And one of the stories I heard was about a woman that you could see on the ceiling, like they removed her grave. I think they moved those graves up. I think the Panhandle, somewhere like that, Panhandle Graveyard or something like that. Someone told me once. But you're supposed to be able to see her grave there, or her hanging there.
One of the neatest TV series is on tonight. It's called Supernatural. Have you ever watched that?
I haven't.
I have really wanted to get into that. It's not something my wife would like, but I have the first season at the house.
Oh, it's really getting heavy now with demons and the devil and angels. Oh, it's a neat show to watch if you ever get a chance.
They're supposed to hunt, the supernatural, right?
They're hunters. They're
two
brothers. One's been to hell, okay, and was plucked out of hell. This is the fourth season of it. And the other one, well, the one that was plucked out of hell actually had an angel for a girlfriend for a short period of time, and the other brother has a demon for a girlfriend. So it's.
I think I dated one of those.
Yeah, and I bet you I know who has more fun.
Well, wouldn't you like to be a vampire and live forever? I think that would be neat.
I don't know.
When I was reading all of Anne Rice's books, there were certain things that were rather appealing.
Yeah, I mean, you could just. I mean, you would lose your loved ones unless they went along with you. But I think it would be neat to live a couple of 100 years just to see what's going to happen in the future and stuff,
Do you remember the show, oh my gosh.
The Highlander?
Yes, Highlander.
That's what I was thinking when she said
I don't remember.
He was immortal. And there were certain people that I don't know how you become, but you can't die unless you're beheaded. You have to be beheaded. And it really, that show was like a mini history lesson every week, because he would go back into some time frame to tell a story, and you were kind of getting a little glimpse of what it was like back, say, in the 1700s or the 1800s. It was really a cool show. It was like 10 seasons or something.
Yeah, it lasted for a while.
Yeah.
A TV series on last year called Moonlight, where the vampire, it was a love story more than anything. He was a private eye. And these vampires, they can only be killed by being beheaded. And they never, they didn't drink anybody's blood. They got blood transfusions and stuff like that. It was a really good series.
Well, see, in True Blood on HBO, the premise of this show is that some Japanese firm had developed synthetic blood. Mm-hmm. So this way, the vampires could come out of the closet, so to speak, because they no longer had to kill. They could just buy bottles of blood. And they go on this crusade to be accepted into human society as equals. And it's quite, it was good. It's on HBO, and it's coming back. They say it's coming back.
What, Lola, if you ever get a chance to see the one and only season of Moonlight, if you could get that on DVD, you would love it. And the 4 seasons of Supernatural. It's really good stuff. I mean, it's really interesting. It's not, it's not garbage. It's well written.
All right.
It's really good stuff.
I'm going to check that out because there's a couple websites too that carry
Surf
all
the
these.
channel.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice
Love it.
talking to you.
All right.
Hey, thanks, Bill.
Thanks.
All right. This is Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Hey guys, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing well. The previous caller's right about Moonlight. Yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy it. It's pretty freaky.
I'm going to look that one up.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's addicting. It really is.
See, I keep thinking Moonlighting. Isn't that the one with Bruce Willis? Or
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, I was thinking,
Sybil
that's not
Shepherd, man.
Yeah.
You're
Sybil
playing the
Shepherd.
best part.
That's a little bit beyond. Or hey, they do have Moonlight, the complete series, here for $25.99.
You got
on
a scary
Amazon.
place. Hey, Steve, are you going to come to the pen with us?
I'm thinking about it. I called Lola about bringing a cooler of beer with me.
Oh, you're the one.
Yeah, I'm the one. Well, I just thought, hey, if we're going to go to the pen on May 22nd, right?
Mm-hmm. It's a
Yeah.
Friday night.
I thought, hey, Friday night, couple of beers, couple of ghosts, Lola screaming and yelling. I thought that might make for a good time.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll put you in.
It
Lola's
won't be
group.
me screaming like a little girl.
It'll be Nick.
Well, now, see, I am going to defend myself. Jordan, who's the only person to run in the prison?
Yeah, but who screamed like a girl?
Well, see, that
from a
leads me
bat.
That leads me into the whole idea of bringing beer, because immediately, and Lola and I talk about these things, making up a drinking game. Every time Lola screams, Sammy!
We would all be sloshed. It'd be an hour into it. We'd all be just knocked out.
Polluted.
We'd
You
have to
see what
pick
I'm
something
talking
else.
about, though.
It'd be
Y'all think
over.
you're so funny.
If you bring non-alcoholic, we can do that. As
Well,
in
the reason
Coca-Cola.
The reason I called this time is because you were talking about pets.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not they bark at something that they may sense that we may not. And you guys know that, of course, I've got Einstein, the smartest dog in the world. I'm waiting for Lola to chime in right now.
She's on the phone.
She's on the phone.
Oh, okay. Well, she usually says Gretchen is. But Einstein's getting to be about 7 months old, and we live in this 100-plus old house. And there's been a couple of times where I'm like, hello, what are you paying attention to? You know what I'm
Yeah,
I'm saying,
I think that animals, like I believe rather, that animals can see things. Animals and little kids, they're the.
We've been in some places where their dogs are what first set them off to thinking there's something in there. They'll follow something through the house, barking at it, and it's kind of scary. When you think about what pets can do. They're looking at something, you don't see it, but something's there.
So do you think your house is
I know
haunted,
what you
Steve?
mean. It's just a couple of times, like he'll run out in the hall from one of the main rooms. He'll run out in the hall as if there's something out there, but it'll just be me and him home.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's just kind of neat. It just really is, and that's why I called this time. Other than the idea about that drinking game.
Yeah. Well, I know Steve asked me before, I put him on hold about Gretchen. And, with the cats, I kind of did try and pay attention to see if they would do that, like staring off into a corner that they say cats will do. And I've never noticed the cats doing anything. But all of a sudden, she'll jump up and run out into the hall, like to the front door or into the bay window. But I don't know if it's because she's heard something on the street. And she doesn't bark when people knock on the door, but if she hears kids or something, then she does. So I've never been sure whether it's been something she's actually heard or if it's,
Right.
that she's reacting to something that I can't see. I don't know.
I think everybody should have a pet and test their house for ghosts.
I think so, too.
Or you could call.
Yeah, call me and I'll do it for a small nominal fee.
Because
right,
Gretchen can see things.
Yeah.
The pen trip.
Yeah.
The pen trip. Everybody with digital recorders, and like you said, they cost $30 at Radio Shack. What about afterwards, guys? Explain to the folks that may be really interested in this. If they bring a digital recorder and they may be able to hear something, what's the process after the trip? I mean, tell the people the turnover time of actually finding something on their own digital recorder.
Well, I'll put it to you this way: how many recorders did we bring on most of our investigation?
About 4.
4. So we have 4 recorders. Each of them would be on for about an hour every hour we were there, which was usually about
Let's say 5 hours.
5 hours. So 4 recorders on each of them, 5 hours worth of audio. That's 20 hours worth of audio. So you mean you pretty much you sit down, kind of like you've watched Ghost Hunters, right, Steve?
Oh, sure.
Okay, just like they do there. Sit down, put the headphones on, you just start listening. Someone else is sitting there watching the video, and I mean,
because you figure 2 video cameras, and if that's on for 5 hours, you got to sit and watch all the video.
And you're sitting there waiting and hoping for maybe 1 to 2 seconds of hearing something. I mean, sometimes we'll get lucky and we had one where we had something. I mean, there was an hour worth of just
noises and sounds.
Crazy, yeah. And that one's on our Willing Paranormal website. So I mean, you could go there all night and not hear anything. You could go there and it could be crazy. You could go there and get 1 or 2 things, but it's kind of like going fishing.
Well, what about if you guys hope to get 30 people for the May 22nd trip? Will you gather all those 30 people or all those digital recorders, or will you ask them to go home, listen to it themselves?
That's probably the best way to do it.
If it's their own equipment, you don't want to rush somebody and say, okay, now that you went, you have 2 days to figure out, if there's any, go home, listen to it in your own time, go through the pictures you've taken, because you'd be surprised what you can get in pictures. And, if you get something, you can email it back to us. We'll put up a special page on our website. All the stuff from our pen trip.
And the big thing with going here, we have to. One of the reasons we're saying no alcohol is if you go there and you're laughing. When we went there, one of the times there was this group that came from somewhere in Ohio. They drove all day, to get there, and we're with them because we just joined the tour, and they're in there laughing and yelling and running around like crazy people and reading all the stuff on the walls. I mean, because there's all kinds of crazy stuff on the walls in each of the rooms, and you could not record because you keep picking them up. So I mean, you're going there. Yes, we're gonna have fun, but at the same time, we want to try to get something. How cool would it be if Sammy the Bull recorded, some ghost saying,
I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
And here's something you can do also with your video, your recorder. You can play it back anytime. If you're in, let's say I go into a cell, hit record and talk for a couple minutes, do EVP for a couple minutes, and I go somewhere else and I just listen to my couple minutes of tape.
Or bring headphones.
And I know Nick and I, our first EVP, we got it that way, and we got it at the pen.
Yeah, there was this guy with some dowsing rods, and I'm recording in his cell, and this is right when Jordan ran. Because you can actually hear him come on the audio. You hear him come up. Nick, I was over there, and my thing went off. Yeah. Just a diversion. I'm sorry, but that was our first one. We had this something like house or something,
Watch House.
Really, yeah. It was a commercial for Fox's house. It was great.
All right, now, so the people that are going on the May 22nd trip, they should pretty much expect no nap time or anything like that.
No way. You won't even want it. Your adrenaline's going to be pumping.
It goes by so fast, dude. 6 o'clock comes around and you're like,
no.
What? Gotta leave. So, I'm hoping when we were there that same trip I was talking about, the people walking around, there was people that, paid and drove all the way down there on the bus and everything. They wouldn't leave the lobby.
That trip, it was like $70.
80, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
For them so they paid all that money to sit in the lobby. Nick and I were snatching people up out of the lobby because they were too afraid to go in and didn't know what to do, and we were walking them around and taking them through stuff.
Now, I know you guys have had some of the other paranormal experts who have gone through the pen on the show. Mm-hmm. Are you guys planning on bringing any of those folks and asking them to come on the tour and start talking too?
Yeah.
We're trying to call some of the people to see if they want to come. Haven't really got a response back from anybody yet.
I know.
I'd like Sherry to be there.
Yeah, Sherry would be fun.
Wheeling Paranormal, the group Nick and I started.
Sure.
Members of the group will be there to help people along and show people what to do, and they'll help teach people how to use the equipment. So they will be there, and they have a few years' experience under their belt too.
You remember Eric that's been in here with us, Lola?
Yeah.
He'll be with us. So, and Scott. Briding. I'm trying to think of some other people. I know we were going to ask Tammy Gross. I don't know if you've had a chance to.
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tammy did the Whispered Tales of the Ohio Valley, all the haunted tales of West Virginia.
So, and I know she goes around with some groups too, and so hopefully she'll get to come. I was thinking we could even ask Eddie Bennett that. Maybe he'll come. He was on last week, so.
And he does exorcisms and everything else. So,
so just in case Sammy gets possessed, we can get a glass of water. And nobody gets the joke because they probably haven't watched it yet. So.
Yeah, Steve. Steve,
are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, Retired Rich just called and he said, aside from liquid refreshments, you perhaps may want to bring some Charmin and a change of underwear.
Oh, well, yeah.
People are just giving us tips. That's,
well, I know, and I know Retired Rich is still listening, and if that's the case, if that's what we would need, the Charmin, the toilet, then I would deem that a pretty successful trip.
I would think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're hoping you have to change your underwear before you
if we can get one person.
and I would love for something of that level. I'll be the one proudly walking out of that penitentiary telling everybody that I've got doo-doo in my underpants.
Sherry had, she was showing me pictures one time, if you remember the pictures of the guy that had the scratch on his neck.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's had some things that supposedly happened to people. So.
There's been people kind of grabbed.
Yeah.
I don't want to say attacked, but.
Grabbed.
Yeah.
And scratched. That tends to be what ghosties do to you, is scratch.
This guy, it looked like it was just like right across the neck, and it would be a hard place for him, I guess, to get to from what she was saying. You'd have to look at the picture, but
yeah.
But that's all at the pen. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of bad history there.
995 people died.
Oh no, the meanest people in the whole wide world
died there.
Were incarcerated, were murdered, were executed, and died within those walls.
Well, like Red Snyder, what happened? He killed his parents and
put him in a suitcase.
Yeah, cut him up, put him in a suitcase. He died right there in North Hall. This is a place where Jordan.
It was actually where our EVP was, the man that killed Red.
Yeah,
we were in his cell.
Jordan went in there and tried to provoke it. This is also our first trip ever, during a class, and his recorder got turned off. So,
those just don't do that.
Yeah, they're not made to do just the turn. You have to hit the stop button. So, only time that's ever happened to us too. So, it's
definitely worth the trip.
Oh yeah,
good memories. It'll be something that you're going to be able to say that you've done before.
Yeah,
scratch it off your list.
All right, and gentlemen, great show. I'm looking forward to the next hour.
Be blessed.
All right, thank you. Lola, good evening.
Yep.
He did say that Einstein was the smartest dog in the world.
And wanted a response from you. So if you want to jump back and say, no, Gretchy is.
My dog is, without a doubt, the smartest, most cleverest dog in the world.
We ready for the top of the hour?
There you go,
yes,
Steve.
All right, everybody. We got one more hour left in Whispers Radio in our 2-hour extravaganza. We'll be back with Kalila Smith.
I think it's Kalila. We'll have to ask her. I've been
Kalila?
looking.
It looks like Kalila.
It looks like Kalila.
Haunted New Orleans.
We're
going to talk about vampires, ghosts, one of the most haunted places in America. Coming up after this, you're listening to AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's One.
I'm sorry.
Pulling out at first dawn's light. Gotta free my mind, get you out of sight. All across this open sea, sparkle blue beauty like a young man's dream. Oh, my world is falling in.
Welcome back to Whispers, everybody, on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. It is 7:06 p.m. It's cold outside, and it's at least it's not snowing.
It was when I came over.
Was it?
Yeah.
Supposed to be something. There's supposed to be. I was reading, or I think weather.com or something like that. AccuWeather. Maybe something next week.
Maybe something
hit.
Tomorrow.
What?
Pittsburgh's talking about getting hit with another inch or two tomorrow.
I wonder if West Liberty's going to be canceled again.
I don't know.
All right, if you see
You're
West
just
Liberty
hoping.
have a 3-hour delay, give us a call.
Jordan will give you a prize.
All right, I just wanted to fill in. My mom texted me over the break and said when my little brother, who I was telling the story about earlier, when we went through the regular tour at the pen, she said he looked up at a window at the psych ward and was saying, "Hey, look, there's a man up there. Hey, look at the man up there." So
nobody's really supposed
Your
to be
brother
afraid of
is.
that. We need to take him to the prison.
Yep, he is.
have to take him to the.
Use him as kind of like a watchdog or something.
Yep. We now have our guest on the phone, and this is one interview I am so excited about. I've been wanting to get something about New Orleans on for the longest time.
You should have heard Lola when I talked to her yesterday when we were driving back and forth. She's like, "What? The New Orleans guest? I'll be there."
I know it. I know it.
All right. We have Kalila Smith. She was born in New Orleans and personally researched and wrote the material featured on the Haunted History Tours of New Orleans, Ghost, Vampire, and Spellbound Tours. Author of Journey into Darkness, Ghosts and Vampires in New Orleans, Searching for Spirits, and the soon-to-be-published Miami Ghosts, Legends, and Mysteries. Are you there with us, Kalila?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing great, and we are excited.
Yes.
I'm hoping I'm saying your name right. Kalila?
It's Kalila.
Oh, very good. See, I got one.
Yeah, the only thing you did have wrong is that the Miami book was published in 2006. Actually, I'm getting ready to go into publication with a fourth book called Tales of the French Quarter.
Oh,
nice.
Even better.
Yep.
What's the French Quarter?
Oh, that's Bourbon Street and everything.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man.
We apologize.
I know. Poor Jordan. He never gets out.
Turn off his mic.
Yeah, y'all gotta let that boy out once in a while.
I know it.
We'll have to go to Mardi Gras
They keep me. They only let me out for the show.
Oh, that's a shame.
We're in an old bank. We just lock him back up in the bank vault and roll him out next week.
Yep.
I'm only good for one thing. It happens.
Oh, well.
Don't let him fool you on that one, my dear.
We've had a question that Jordan and I have, and I even emailed you about this. You said you can answer, so I've got to ask first. Why are vampires so ingrained in New Orleans culture? I mean, every time you hear about a vampire, it's almost always in New Orleans.
Well, with very good reason. And you have to realize we were originally a French colony, and we were settled in the late 1600s. Going into the early 1700s. And during that time in France was the latter part of the Inquisition. Now, everybody's familiar with the Inquisition, starting in the early, 1200s, going up through for several, 300-400 years with, burning of heretics, the witch burnings. But what a lot of people don't realize is that by the early 1700s, or a little bit before, the Catholic Church actually went venturing into Eastern European countries. And what they found there were a culture of gypsy people who had a very, very well-documented folklore of vampires. Now, these gypsies, when someone would die, if they were considered predisposed to vampirism, they would literally dig up the dead and cut their heads off and burn them. So the Catholic Church is witnessing this and, basically started to go back to their Western European countries. They decided at that time that the vampire was either a child of a witch or a witch that had died. And they went back and started desecrating graves, started digging up people and literally just desecrating graves. And this went on for another 100 years. And you got to realize it was that during that period of time that this is going on in France that New Orleans was settled. Now, one of the ways one became a vampire is by living a life of being a murderer, rapist, thief, or otherwise common criminal. Okay? So you've got that going on, and they emptied the Bastilles, or the prisons, to colonize the city.
Oh, kind of like what they did, like Britain did with Australia.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that was one of the ways that one was considered to be a vampire at that time.
So pretty much they just deported a bunch of vampires and sent them to New Orleans.
Well, a bunch of criminals.
Well, they actually,
more or less,
not necessarily vampires, but people who were predisposed to vampirism.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, when was Vlad the Impaler? Isn't he supposedly the very first vampire?
No.
No?
Now, he was the first. He was one of the first literary vampires in the character rather, Dracula.
Yeah.
But the real Vlad, who lived in the 1400s, was a prince in Romania. He was a Wallachian prince, and they called him Vlad the Impaler because he had a nasty little habit of impaling his prisoners of war on large wooden stakes.
Nice guy.
There was nothing vampiric around him. At no time was he a vampire. It's just that during his research, Bram Stoker, when he wrote the novel Dracula, he actually researched Eastern European vampire folklore for about 7 years.
Yeah.
And during his research, he runs across this character from history who impales his victims. And I think there was one instance where Vlad actually dipped his bread into the blood of his enemies and ate it. But that was very customary back then because the belief was that you took on your enemy's power by doing that.
Yeah.
So he used the prince, Dracula. Basically, he used the name, he used the Romanian setting, but he also used other characters from history, such as Elizabeth Bathory from Hungary, who was called the Blood Countess, who didn't drink blood, by the way. She bathed in it, gallons of it. Yeah, she believed that by bathing in the blood of young virgins, she could preserve her youth and her beauty.
Did it work
she killed
for her?
about 650 women.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, over a period of several years. Because she was royalty, when they found out she was doing this, they could not execute her. They literally bricked her up into her room, and she went mad and eventually died there.
Wow.
And we think we have it bad today.
Yeah. See, now I always thought the first vampire was Lilith. You ever heard of Lilith?
Well, you see, that's a concept. I got to tell you, that is not something that was thought of years and years ago, okay? That theory of the first vampire being Lilith actually came about when they started the White Wolf game, Vampire the Masquerade. You know, but if you look throughout vampire literature, and I'm assuming you're talking about the first vampire in literature. Is that what you're talking about?
I always heard the folklore kind of Lilith being the first wife of Adam that kind of turned, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Well, the way the folklore goes, because I've been studying this a long time. I didn't hear about it till the White Wolf game. They kind of played that up. And that's why you had all these goth girls running around and they had the name Lilith. She was the first vampire. But prior to that in literature, she was never mentioned.
Gotcha.
So, but according to the early Hebrew folklore, Lilith was the first wife, and because she was banished and then Eve was brought into the picture, supposedly, she turned into some sort of a creature that fed on the children of Adam and Eve. Doesn't specifically say that she was a vampire.
Okay.
So fictional writers will take bits and pieces of history, folklore, that sort of thing, and they embellish on it to make it more palatable to the reader. So someone takes it, incorporates it into some fiction, and says, okay, she was the first vampire. She's the first vampire in their particular fiction.
I understand. So who would you consider to be the first like real vampire of history?
Every culture, every civilization, every religion had a vampire or a vampire-like creature in their folklore. So you have vampire-like creatures dating back thousands of years in China, in Japan, in Egypt. There were vampiric-type creatures. Not necessarily of what we think of as the modern vampire that we see in the movies. Those are primarily based on the vampire folklore of Eastern Europe because that was most of what was publicized.
Yeah, Bram Stoker did an awful lot for that, with that first book. But now getting back to New Orleans, do you believe that there are truly vampires in New Orleans?
I do know for a fact that there is truly a vampire culture in New Orleans. There are people who live what is called a vampire lifestyle.
Now, what can you explain that for me? Because here in West Virginia, we have mountain people.
Yeah.
Could you explain that to me? No, I'm kidding.
This will be our last show.
It's called inbreeding.
Oh, no.
See, I don't understand.
See why we lock him up all the time?
The vampire thing, just not the mountain people thing. No, I'm joking. No, these people live a vampiric lifestyle. Now, these people, they actually live in or form what's called houses. It's almost like a little cult, little mini cult. You've got groups of them that are like in their own little cult together.
Uh-huh.
And they communicate with the other little groups. Now, these people can be anything from real blood drinkers to psychic vampires.
Okay. What's a psychic vampire?
Well, now, a psychic vampire, this is someone who feeds on the life force of the living.
Okay.
You've got several different types, one of which is a mortal psychic vampire.
Okay.
You've got unintentional psychic vampires. Now, these are people, sick people, mentally ill people, chronically ill people, terminally ill people, and they pull life force off of the healthier people. They're not doing this intentionally.
No, but I know people like that.
Right.
They just drain
we
you when you're around them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you've ever been around anybody who's depressed, it drains you because they're pulling that energy. Now, it is a form of psychic vampirism. They're not intentionally doing it. However, there are people, mortal people, who intentionally pull energy off of others. And this is what is referred to by an occultist as an intentional psychic vampire. And they're actually considered to be the most dangerous type of vampire.
And why?
Well, because usually you're very unaware that the attack is going on.
Oh.
Yeah, I get that.
They don't have to bite your neck and take
no, they
but
just,
I think that would be
you.
more dangerous. What are you?
And I got to tell you, throughout folklore, in Eastern European folklore, only 50% of the attacks that were documented were actual physical attacks. The other ones were psychic attacks, taking the life force energy. And oftentimes they described it as coming through the eyes. You know, the eyes being the window of the soul.
Right.
And they'd pull the life force through there. See, this is where Bram Stoker got the idea for his character to have that hypnotic stare.
Well, and I believe that.
To this day, the Catholic Church, even though at a certain point in time the Catholic Church decided, okay, we're not going to desecrate graves anymore, we don't believe in vampires anymore, to this day they do believe in the psychic vampire. Absolutely.
Well, and I think anybody that has any lick of sense, truthfully, should believe in that. I mean, we've all been around people, whether we're aware of it or not, that, you know, just by... Well, more or less by eye contact and by being around them, you just literally walk away feeling
drained.
Yes, and if you spent a great deal of time, you know, it could really deplete you both physically and mentally.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Now, here's my question, because you were talking about real blood drinkers. Does that mean if I go down, you know, and take a little visit down Bourbon Street, that I'm going to get attacked and bitten and get my blood drained from me? From these?
Very, very unlikely. Actually, it is less than 1% of the mortal blood drinker overall, not just in New Orleans, but overall, collectively, that ever resorts to violence or murder to get their blood. Most of these people have donors, or they form blood cults. They exchange blood with people they know. You have to realize, I mean, you know, this is a lifestyle chosen by these people. A, they're not drinking much blood. You can't drink much blood. It'll make you vomit.
Yeah.
So they're only taking a small amount. It's very symbolic. It's more of a symbolism of the life force within the blood as opposed to taking large amounts of blood.
So it's not their sustenance for daily living.
Right.
Kind of
you know, it's a very symbolic thing.
Almost like communion kind of thing.
That's what I was going to say, like communion.
Exactly. Yeah. It's very ritualistic. And they don't, most of them, with the exception of the 1% who are psychotic murderers, these people don't want blood from someone they don't know. Because you better have vampire immortality if you're going to drink blood. You know? So, I mean, they form very, very close bonds with their donors. And they know them very well. They're tested regularly for blood-borne pathogens. And this is a very unique relationship. They may not necessarily be in a personal relationship with their donors, but it is a relationship formed between the vampire and the donor, and they don't want to just drink blood randomly from just anybody. They won't.
I wouldn't do that.
I wouldn't.
I wouldn't do it, period, but I wouldn't just...
Well,
you don't know what's out there,
either, but, yeah, it's not my cup of tea either, but, you know, there are people who do it.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very clandestine lifestyle, and it's, you know, it's not something that they're discussing with very many people. Now, yes, they do dress as vampires. For the most part, if you see them, they're going to look like vampires.
So they come out during the day.
Yeah. Most of the ones that I know that are living the lifestyle, they have day jobs. They have regular day jobs. And, but they dress very gothic. Prior to the big goth explosion and the White Wolf with the role play games, many of the people who lived that lifestyle were very clandestine, and they kind of blended in with everybody else.
Yeah.
During the 90s, when you had all that White Wolf game going on, you had a lot of role players running around dressed as fictional vampires. There's goth vampire clubs opening up, and suddenly it's very, very cool and chic to be a vampire. Well, what you had happen was a lot of these once clandestine blood drinkers or psychic vampires start coming more out, and suddenly they're blending in with the role players, dressing as they do, going to their clubs. And basically what we had were vampires pretending to be people pretending to be vampires in the real sense.
Okay. How much of a role did Anne Rice in her novels have in making this really almost, if you can say, acceptable in a subculture way?
Well, I mean, she didn't bring about the goth or role play movement, because it was definitely well out and in force, since the punk days of the 80s. But it was a little bit more amplified when the movie came out. The book Interview with the Vampire was written in the 70s.
That was
the movie didn't come out until 1996.
Yeah.
So, you put something on the big screen with Brad Pitt in it, of course, that's going to bring a lot of attention. It's going to amplify it and give it more attention. But the fact that we had vampire folklore here since, the beginning of time in New Orleans probably had something to do with inspiring her and others to set their vampire fiction in New Orleans.
Yeah. Well, let's get to ghosts. What is one of the most, since Jordan's never been there, and I love New Orleans, if I could move, that's one of the places I would seriously consider moving to.
She'd be a blood drinker.
I would not. No, but I would, the thought of it's just got to be incredibly full of spirits. And, what are some of the best places, say we were going to go down, what are some of the best places for us to experience something like that?
Well, the best way to experience it really is to take our ghost tour. Just about every building in the French Quarter is going to have some sort of ghostly activity in it.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that if you just randomly wander around the French Quarter, you might be looking at a haunted place, but you don't really know what you're looking at.
Right.
You don't know the history behind it. You don't know what happened to create the haunting. And by taking our haunted tour is, actually what kind of gives you the whole behind-the-scenes stories of why it is haunted.
Well, what about Katrina? I mean, surely there have got to be, like the Ninth Ward, if you were really psychically attuned to spirits, I would think that would be devastating then to walk through some of those areas, not only for the people that lost their lives during Katrina, but everything else being so disturbed and disrupted because of the storm.
Well, yeah, see, that's the biggest thing, especially here in the French Quarter. The French Quarter was not flooded.
Right.
No one died, per se, because of Katrina in the French Quarter. You had some deaths outside of the French Quarter, people who stayed in their house and got stuck and drowned. Yes, not in the French Quarter, though. But the disruption of everything that was going around energetically, I mean, you have a place where the dead are constantly given a lot of attention here,
Mm-hmm.
and, basically they're feeding off of all this attention. And suddenly this place, no pun intended, becomes a ghost town. There's nobody here.
Yeah, yeah.
So what you have is an over inundation of those spirits that are normally here, and there's no people.
What's some of the places you take people, if we were going on the tour, what's some of your favorite places to go to visit, and some of your best stories?
Well, some of the main stories, there is one about a woman by the name of Julie who lived in the 1860s. And Julie, back then during the 17 and 1800s, the French aristocratic men had a custom they call plissage. And in this arrangement, they took on women of color as mistresses.
Mm-hmm.
Interracial marriage was not legal back then, but the plissage arrangement was a contractual agreement. So any children born of the union did take the father's name and had right of heirship. Well, this particular young woman lived with her lover. He had a business in the building. They lived in the upper portions of the building. And she had everything she could possibly want except his name. Now, she's a very young woman. She's wanting to defy the law and wants him to marry her. Now, he knew this wasn't possible, So what he does is he offers her an ultimatum, something pretty ridiculous, and then tells her that if she does this, he'll marry her. Otherwise, she's got to never speak of it again. And what he tells her to do on a very cold night in December is it's raining, it's sleeting, the wind is blowing. He tells her to spend the entire night on the roof with no clothes on and prove herself worthy to be a bride. Now, never thinking that she's going to actually do it, after he blurts this out to her, he goes about his business. He's entertaining guests later on in his parlor. His business associates are there, and he's entertaining them. And he really gives it little thought. Before he knows it, it's daylight outside. He's kept his guests up all night. He walks them down to the carriages. Well, by the time he gets up to the third floor, he realizes that she's not there. Now, she couldn't have left because she'd had to walk right past him. Long story short, he finds her up on the roof, dead. She died from exposure, waiting to be a bride.
Oh.
Now, you've got all of this very, very strong emotions and very tragic death happening there, and this leaves that impression. And the legend of Julie says that every year on the coldest night of December, she reappears on the roof, waiting still to be a bride.
Wow.
But she's not the only ghost in the building. Actually, once he found her, he died within the year. Now, a lot of people like to romanticize the story, and they say, oh, he died of a broken heart. Truth of the matter is he drank himself to death. Back then, they drank something called absinthe, and it was very toxic. So if you drank too much of it, you didn't wake up with a hangover. You just didn't wake up.
Right. It was highly addictive, too.
Yeah, it was like an herbal hallucinogen. It had wormwood in it, which is a hallucinogenic agent, but also extremely poisonous. So, in essence, you could say that she died for the man she loved too much, and he, of course, died for the woman that he loved too little.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Now, are there sightings and stuff of this?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, 90% of the people who take our tours actually get phenomena on the photographs.
Really?
Oh,
Like
wow.
what kind? Are we talking like just orbs or like actual?
Orbs, but actual ecto. We get a lot of ectoplasm.
Really?
I mean, oh yeah. I mean, we get our share of orb photos, but I mean, we get quite a bit of ectoplasm, and I'm talking heavy ectoplasm.
All the times I've been in New Orleans, and I don't think I've ever taken any photos, particularly at night. Now I'm thinking back as to why didn't I do this?
Yeah, why didn't you do this?
Well, I have pictures of Cities of the Dead. I love those places. I can wander around those cemeteries for hours and hours and hours. And I do have photos from in there, but they were all daylight. I'll have to go back and really check them.
We've gotten people who have captured things on the photographs at daylight.
Really? I'm gonna go back. I just found them.
People think it's a lot, spookier at night, but I mean, you can capture things on your photographs. I mean, most of these things are captured, arbitrarily. Somebody's taking a picture of something else, and they happen to get something.
Yeah, in the background.
They're not planned, but I mean, hauntings don't just occur at night. A lot of people think they do. It only happens at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's just that you only notice it at 2 o'clock in the morning because it's quiet.
Quiet, and you're looking for it generally at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right, you might be in a very quiet building. There's nothing. You don't have the TV on. There's not a lot of traffic going on outside. Now, of course, in the streets of the French Quarter at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's still quite noisy here. But
yeah.
You're just going to be more apt to notice it when there's less physical activity going on.
All right. What was the name? The part of town that was notorious for prostitutes. Well, I can't remember the name of it.
Storyville.
Yes, Storyville.
Yeah, actually, it was the whole city of New Orleans. It was the French Quarter prior to Storyville, but it was so out of control in the French Quarter that's why they designated that particular area. That prostitution could only be legal there was to get it out of the French Quarter, which essentially then was basically the city of New Orleans.
Yeah, yeah. Are there a lot of hauntings or sightings in Storyville? I would think that there would be a lot of discontent spirits there.
Well, there is no more Storyville. What was Storyville is now gone, and there's a housing project there.
Oh, but still, you'd think the spirits would. Didn't they purposely flood that? Or no?
That wasn't flooded, no. That's right outside of the French Quarter.
I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm confusing stories then. I thought there was a section that was purposely flooded out.
You're thinking about the Ninth Ward, which has nothing to do with Storyville. That's outside of the French Quarter.
Well, not this flooding, though. Another time, back like 50, 60 years ago, or even further back than that. Oh, well, never mind. This is the ramblings of an old lady. Don't worry about it.
How about
You know us mountain people.
Yeah, that's what happens when you talk to mountain people, you know.
You don't know the
man.
grief I'm going to get over that tomorrow, but, you know, these guys won't be here. I will, so.
Luckily, though, none of the thrh of us here are actually from West Virginia. You're from southern West Virginia, too.
Oh.
Nick's a mountain people. All right, so
You're in
back...
my family. What are you talking about? All right, how about Myrtle's Plantation? To switch the subjects here. Do you know anything about that?
The Myrtle's Plantation?
Yes.
Yeah, I actually spent the night there quite a few years ago. Myself and about 4 other people, we actually had the whole plantation to ourselves. And it's a pretty interesting place. There's nothing malevolent there. It's not scary. But we did have some strange things happen. It seemed like most of the activity was in the particular area that they call the ladies' parlor. And that particular room was about 10 degrees colder in there than the rest of the house. And it was not a variance in the air conditioning because they had one air conditioning system and it was kind of preset. But it was so much colder in that room that you actually had precipitation on the windows.
Wow.
And we left a recorder down there and blocked off the room. And when we went back and played it back, there was one section where you kind of heard like somebody walking around, and we got on a digital recorder a woman scream.
Huh.
What kind of history? Do you know the history of the place pretty well?
Reasonably well. I mean, you know, originally, now here's the clincher. Originally, this was Native American burial ground. Okay. So, you know, the white man goes in, not only takes their land, but kills what natives there were there, and then burns them on the property, and then builds a plantation there. Now, what's so interesting about that is that some of the most haunted places in this country, if you look back, started out as Native American burial ground, including the French Quarter.
Really?
Yeah, the Native Americans warned them not to build a city here. This was a swamp that the Choctaw used to bury their dead. So General Bradford goes and takes this land from these people, kills them, burns them all in a big pile, and then builds a plantation there and gives it to his daughter, Sarah Matilda.
We should be so proud.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it all begins with that, because I got to tell you, in researching this for so many years, if you keep checking back far enough, you'll find that Native American burial ground. And when they desecrate that land, it's almost like putting a curse on it, because there are spirits that guard these burial grounds, and they're very, very protective. So when something's disrupted like that, you set the stage for there to become tragedy. You set the stage for there to become hauntings.
We have a pen down at a penitentiary that was, notorious back in the day. It's down just about, 20 miles from here, if that. In fact, we're taking a tour of it. We're going to be locked into it in May. But, it's said to have so much activity too. And right across the street, we have why the town is called Moundsville. There are Indian mounds there. And some people have theorized that the Indians could instinctively know where these parallel energy lines run, and that's why they put their burial grounds in these certain areas.
The ley lines, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your most sacred spots, and not just the Native Americans, but if you look at like where Stonehenge and various other, go down to Mexico where you had, the Aztecs and, and various places where these early people had their sacred grounds, whether it be burial grounds or where they put their altars. They're all situated on what's called ley lines. And these are energetic lines, imaginary energetic lines on the earth, and there's specific vortexes for energy. And it's also very interesting that a lot of your more what would be considered comparatively your modern churches are also situated on a lot of these sacred grounds.
Now that is interesting.
Yeah, I never heard that one either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ley lines, L-E-Y, ley lines.
Yeah.
If you look them up, it's a system of grids, energetic grids, and things are situated.
Like monuments too, right?
Reasons. Well, yeah, monuments too.
We actually have a phone call for you, a question. If you
Okay, this is Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, Bill.
Good show, first of all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I like you being on at 6 o'clock.
So do we.
Yeah, speaking to your guest, though, going back to the modern-day vampires, does witchery and voodooism connect in any way?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your whole question. The witchery and what?
Voodoo.
No. Witchcraft as well as voodoo are religions. Vampire is more of a lifestyle.
You believe there ever was a... Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
While someone could be living a vampire lifestyle, could very well have a religious preference for one of those religions, but they have nothing to do with one another. Other than the fact that during the Inquisition, did the church at some point in time relate vampirism to an act of witchcraft? That's about it.
Okay.
Aren't there a lot of witch doctors down there, practicing voodooism? And,
well, actually, I'm a voodoo practitioner, and we don't really use the word witch doctor, but
well, that wasn't meant negatively, though.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm just saying we don't use the word witch doctor. But and voodoo is not witchcraft. Witchcraft is a separate religion. That's more of a Celtic religion.
So that's a natural thing, isn't it? It's more of a with the with nature is what it is about, basically, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's working with the herbs. It's considered low magic. You're working with herbs. You're working with roots. You're working with the days of the week, the seasons of the year. It was actually originally based on the seasons of the crop, and also the witch in the witchcraft religion, they're using their will to make change and conformity, whereas in voodoo it's considered high magic. Even though we do work with roots and herbs for the medicinals, we're working with spirit. We're working with the deities that are basically called the Loa. Now, and the other difference is that voodoo is monotheistic. It's very, very parallel, believe it or not, to Catholicism. We have one God, the Creator, and then we have this team of deities beneath God that God created to work and intercede in our life, very similar to the Catholic saints.
So you can't cast a spell, can you?
Well, I mean, a spell is nothing more than a spoken word, a prayer. That's all the word spell is. You're creating something, and like I said, the difference in voodoo is we're not using our will to cast a spell per se. We're working with spirit. We're asking spirits to intercede in our lives and do specific things. Now, there's definitely a split in both religions between the religious aspects and the spell casting. You can practice the religion and never ever cast a spell. You can do the spell casting and never ever practice the religion. Every early religion had their religious aspects, where you had your baptismals, your weddings, your funerals, your teachings, your healings, and then you had your spell casting.
Now, I always heard that Lilith was a demon general of the devil, one of his disciples. Did you hear anything like Lilith? He was talking about her being Lilith.
Yeah, Lilith.
Yeah.
The Hebrew first wife
she
of
was
Adam.
a demon general of the devil, one of the top-ranking mistresses, whatever.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the culture. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not the expert in Hebrew mythology. I don't, not
now,
mine.
Is there any documentation of how long a latter-day vampire could have lived or would have lived? Or is it just all hearsay stuff?
That's a good question.
What do you mean? What do you mean by a latter-day vampire?
Like one that would be considered a real vampire?
A real vampire, if there could or would have been such a individual, is there any documentation of how long this individual might have lived, back in the 1600s?
Well, you have to realize what we think of as vampires for the average person, they're thinking of the fictional vampire. Real vampires are not what we see on the movie screen. Okay,
yeah, I know.
Real mortal blood drinkers, and what is believed by occultists to be what you're calling your real vampire is actually a spiritual creature, and it's believed that possibly someone who lives vampiric lifestyle during their life, either blood drinking or psychic vampire, could possibly remain on the earth plane as a spirit after their death and continue to feed on the living. So we're not talking about, is there a physical being who could live 4,000 years? No, of course not. No. But this would be like a ghost-like creature.
I was hoping there would have been something that lived 200 or 300 years, And
no, not physically. No, that defies all the laws of physics. Yeah. But what the vampire lifestylers do believe is that the physical body dies and their spirit remains able to basically feed on the living.
And how could that happen? How could it feed on the living?
Well, it's a ghost-like creature. It's called a Mara, and it's where the word nightmare originates from.
Do you believe
anything? You've ever heard of the hag attacks? They used to call them hag attacks, and that would be an attack of a Mara.
What about lichens? Was there any stories about lichens down there in New Orleans?
Well, lichens, that's a term used by the movie Underworld. There's no real such thing as a lichen. They're talking about werewolves, and that's, similar folklore from various places in the world, but it was believed that a werewolf was more of a creature like a witch could turn somebody into a werewolf. It was more of a curse kind of thing.
Yeah, whereas the vampire was actually scared of the werewolf. Isn't that correct in folklore?
Well, in folklore, the vampire and the werewolf never really crossed.
Really?
That's just fiction.
Okay. Hey, it's been nice talking to you.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bill.
Thanks, Bill. We had another phone call from Barb, but she couldn't stay on the phone. And I love this word, incubus. I just love that word for some reason. But she wanted to know, is an incubus similar to a vampire?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the incubus is a spiritual creature. It is also a psychic vampire, but it's a psychic sexual vampire.
Yep.
And they're getting the life force through a sexual act, but the incubus is a spiritual creature. So this would be basically a ghost of some type that would sexually attack a woman and take her life force in the process.
Okay. There's just something about that word.
That would be the succubus.
Yeah, succubus.
Yes. I don't know why, but I hear those two words and I have to chuckle. And I know there's nothing really funny about them, but yes, I'm back.
Lola's immature.
Yeah. Lola's just having trouble dealing today, that's all.
Now you kind of piqued my curiosity there when you were talking about, your faith in voodooism.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain what all that is? Because I'm going to tell you, I have no real experience with that, and the only thing I think of is putting pins in a doll.
No, actually, like I said, it is a religion. I believe in God, but I believe that God's very busy running the cosmos. God doesn't care if you get a promotion next week, okay?
Yeah.
God doesn't care if Johnny and Mary have a fight and they broke up. God could care less about that. It's over the big scheme of eternity, not real important.
Yeah.
But there are these deities called the Loa, and like I said, they're very similar to Catholic saints in that each Loa has a specific purpose. And they are meant to work with us more on this earth plane and get us through the spiritual evolution of this life.
Kind of like the way that some people believe that there are angels.
Exactly. Yeah. If you're not Catholic and you're Protestant, you would think of them as angels. Yes, they're not human. They're higher up to God's consciousness than we are, but they are created by God to work and intercede for us.
So the voodoo doll never happens.
The voodoo doll is actually based on the European sympathetic magic of transferring something of that person to the doll and putting pins in it, originally intended to bring healing to particular parts of the body. The idea of doing the voodoo doll is once again, you can thank Hollywood for stuff like that. If God's not going to give us that much power, number one. Okay?
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. God's not going to give me that much power to stick pins in a doll and maim and kill people. I always tell people on the tour, if I could stick pins in a doll, if that worked, I wouldn't have any ex-husbands, okay? I'm serious, I'd be a wealthy widow, because, God's not going to let me do that, okay? God's like, no, that's not going to work. So the dolls that you see that have the pins with them are basically souvenirs. Actually, there are dolls in the voodoo tradition that are patterned after the European puppet. And what they do in the real voodoo tradition is they house the energy of those loas. They're made in the image of that loa. So, say, for instance, you want to bring love into your life, you would get a doll that's made in the image of that particular loa and put it on your nightstand, put it in your house, and it's going to draw that energy into your life. We wouldn't want to stick pins into it because it would be disrespectful.
Okay.
You know, that would be like taking a religious artifact and sticking a pin in it. They're not going to want to do something for it if you're sticking pins in their representation. You see what I'm saying? So they're actually made, you know, when these things are ritualized, the practitioner works with these deities to put that life force, or ashe, as it's called in Creole French, and that ashe brings that energy into your life to draw what it is you're trying to draw. Whether it's health, love, money, whatever.
Yeah. I think Hollywood makes your job a little more interesting. Always have to
Hollywood always makes it to where I have to explain a lot more.
I bet you do.
Yeah, you know, I mean, we also get people on the voodoo tour, you know, like, you know, we have to explain it. You know, there's not going to be a ritual. I'm not going to be killing any chickens. you know, we're not doing all that. You know, but yeah, Hollywood definitely paints a very different picture.
Oh, I'm sure, and a lot of people go down to the Caribbean too, and they half expect to hear drums off in the distance and people walking with.
There are drums in the voodoo ritual, without a doubt. And if you go down in the Caribbean, if you happen, number one, you're not going to, you know, they're not going to invite, you know, the average white tourist into their to happen. That's out in the countryside. They're not doing that for show in the resorts, but you're, you know, down in the Caribbean, yes, they are going to sacrifice animals because in the voodoo tradition, we do give to these spirits what we like: food, libations, tobacco, that sort of thing. In the Caribbean and in Africa as well, they do sacrifice animals for spirit, okay? But those people eat that way. You see what I'm saying? If they want to eat something, that poor farmer is going to go out in his yard and get a chicken and sacrifice it, and that's dinner. Yeah. So if that farmer takes that chicken and sacrifices it and puts it on an altar, rather feed it to its family, that's a sacrifice.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
I don't butcher my own food.
No.
So in my culture, you know, if I'm going to put chicken on my altar, I'm going to buy KFC. Okay? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throwing the word sacrifice.
Now, the voodoo itself, doesn't that derive from, like, Haiti?
Well, originally it derives from the Western Dahomey region of Africa, which is now Benin.
Okay. What's the connection between the voodoo religion and because zombies, the whole premise of zombies evolved out of that, didn't it?
The zombie originated from, you know, in the tribes, what they would do is, now they use the blowfish poison. Mm-hmm. And what they would do is they would get somebody into this state of near death to have them communicate with spirits, much as the Native American used a lot of hallucinogens to communicate with spirit and come back and bring messages. Lots of times, you know, they use these neurotoxins to get these people into these altered states, and lots of times they didn't give the right antidote or in the right amount of time, and they had neurological damage. Now, the Catholic missionaries go down there, and what do they see? See, many times when they were doing this ritualistically, they'd even bury the person with an air tube and do a mock funeral.
Oh, wow.
Okay, to symbolize going to the spirit world and communicating with spirit. So the Catholic missionaries go down there, what do they see? Looks like somebody died, looks like somebody had a funeral, got buried, now looks like somebody's back. Yeah. And they have brain damage. So that's where your zombie came from. We don't have zombies in New Orleans because we didn't have blowfish. There was no way to duplicate the toxins. In fact, Wade Davis wrote a book called The Serpent and the Rainbow, where a surgeon from the United States actually went down to Haiti to try to get that neurotoxin used for anesthesia. They have tried to duplicate it synthetically, and they can't. They can't do it. It's a combination of plant toxins, blowfish poison, poisonous toads, and ground up human bones, which contain some toxicity after they've been around for a while. And they make it into a powder, and it goes through the mucous membranes.
Oh, that's why they blow it into your face.
Correct.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Well, I'm on your website, and I see you have Louisiana's first paranormal convention coming up February 28th.
Yes, that's going to be in Shreveport. And I'm going to be doing a talk on ghosts there, and also doing an investigation in their theater, which the downstairs used to be a morgue. So should be very interesting.
Jeez.
Now that's at KalilaSmith.com, correct?
KalilaSmith.com, and of course these tours, it's KalilaSmith.com, and of course the tours are at hauntedhistorytours.com.
Which we've got to go on one of these.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you should do it. You should do it. And like I said, the new book coming up is Tales of the French Quarter, and it's going to expand out a little bit more than just the paranormal. There are some paranormal investigations in there, but it's going to focus some also on the old folklore, the old ghost stories that we can't prove, that we all grew up being scared of, and a lot of the bizarre murders and disappearances in the city, as well as some funny stories from just the regular things that happen in this crazy place we call the French Quarter.
Now, when is this book coming out?
Probably it's going to be sometime in 2009. It's still in the early stages. I mean, it's finished, but it's not in print yet. So it will be out, hopefully sometime, maybe summer, fall at the latest, I would imagine.
And we have your latest books up on our website if they want to go buy them at Amazon.com. Searching for Spirits, Miami Ghosts, Legends and Mysteries, and Journey into Darkness, Ghosts and Vampires. So.
Well, yeah. The New Orleans book, which actually we changed the name of it, and it's called New Orleans Ghosts, Voodoo and Vampires, because it went into its 5th edition, and I added voodoo to it. That one can be found at our website at hauntedhistorytours.com. Okay. They just need to go to the gift shop, and that one's bought exclusively through us.
Okay, I'll link that as well so people can find it.
All right, definitely keep us updated on when your book comes out. That way we can promote it, and we can have you back on and share some stuff with us.
Absolutely, yeah, I would love that. That would be great. You guys need to come down here and visit me.
Oh, we definitely will. It'd be nice to take a trip down, wouldn't it, Lo?
Oh, I love New Orleans. I just love it. Yeah.
Lola's doing a little dance.
I am. It's a great city.
Yeah, you guys keep in touch.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it, guys.
Well, thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Well, that was fun. I liked her.
Yeah.
So you've been to New Orleans?
Yeah, several times.
I was taking it. Seemed like you had.
Yes.
And still no experience, Lo? Because you said you've just been wandering through life waiting for a paranormal experience.
I mean, I really, their cemeteries that come Cities of the Dead are they're phenomenal places. I'll unearth those pictures and bring them in. They literally, because they can't bury anything underground. So everything is a crypt. And
really?
That was one of the problems with Katrina, where, they had literally caskets floating about because everything is above, you have to have everything above ground.
Wow.
There. And some of these crypts are just gorgeous. And one of them was, I can't remember her name, but she was a very famous madam, ran a brothel, and hers is like pink marble, and she's got all the statuary on the outside, and they're landscaped. I mean, these places are just, and and I was there, it was right around dusk because I was really, pushing the envelope open, and I've been like in the garden section of, the city, and and then further out, like Metairie and places like that. But, but the French Quarter, if you've never been there, oh my goodness. It is a trip. In fact, the last time I was down there, I was with Tim Mattern and John Blackmore.
Oh, geez.
Well, we kind of went our separate ways. But, it was a lot of fun. That's where I met, what was his name?
Anne Rice?
No.
Harry Anderson?
No.
I want to go down and meet Harry Anderson from Night Court. He actually runs a club in the French Quarter.
Brad and what's her face have a house there.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember her name. Angelina?
Yeah.
You can't remember?
Yeah.
Jordan knew who we were talking about.
Of course he did.
If I go down, I'll turn into a stalker, and nobody wants that.
I mean, there's just so much there. And, the spirits of all of the fantastic musicians that have.
See, that's why I want to go to the music. I want to hear some music.
That's Bourbon Street, honey. That's Bourbon Street.
Now what you feel about all the voodoo stuff? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was interesting. I mean, but we all have in our minds these ideas, really and truly, that Hollywood has put there.
Yeah.
The drums pounding in the hot, sultry jungle, and glassy-eyed people walking with their arms stretched out,
Eating brains.
And the same with the whole Dracula thing. We've got those certain images, and
we got to touch on a lot tonight.
I know, except for the ghosty part. She was kind of stingy with that. I thought. I think it was like, well, if you want to know more about ghosties, come on down here, and take our tour. I don't know.
I guess we're just gonna have to have her back and pry it out of her.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, if we could ever make it down there, boy, I would do that now. The same with Gettysburg.
Yeah.
I've been to Gettysburg so many times, purposely tried to, see that regiment of soldiers that goes across the field, and I never. But maybe I need to go with somebody that can actually, that spirits come to,
Yeah.
and perhaps that would. I want to so bad.
She wants to believe.
That's all right, because we got this pen trip. May 22nd, you are gonna experience the paranormal.
Okay.
Because
if we have to put Sammy on a sheet, you're gonna experience something.
Oh.
See, we're getting all these people to come not to experience the ghost hunt, but to experience your first paranormal experience, because everybody wants to see that.
It'll be well worth it.
It's a dream.
If nothing happens,
I just see this.
I'm
This
gonna
is
be
the
so
image
bummed.
I get. There's Lola walking down a hallway, and then there's all these like 20 or 39 or 29 other people behind her, like slowly, like walking, like a little ways off, like she's seen something yet.
Oh look!
And she'll like shriek out or something over a bat, and they'll be like, "Was it a ghost?"
I say we lock her up in the sugar shack for a while by herself. And let's see what happens.
By myself. You wouldn't do it by yourself.
No way.
What we need is, since you guys both, go to West Liberty State College, what we need is somebody in the film department to decide to do a documentary.
About?
Our trip to the Pan.
Wow, Jordan. Jordan, you're in broadcasting, and
I'm serious.
There we go.
I mean, this is something we're planning it well enough in advance that, all the pre-work could be done, the backstories could be done, and then all of us troop in there and see.
All right, if anybody's listening that goes to West Liberty.
Well, any college.
Or any college
any
around
film,
here.
Any film
So
major.
Want to make a documentary on us, give us a call.
I think it's a brilliant idea.
There's plenty of time. Give us some contact stuff, and we'll bring you along with the pen with us.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. They've done documentaries on far less interesting things like the mating of fruit flies.
That was a good documentary.
I liked that.
Only you guys would say that. All right, gentlemen.
Who we got next week, Nikki?
Well, next week we have Daniel Chamberlain, The Kingdom Hall No More. This will be when we get banned. But it's about it's about he was in the Jehovah's Witness from when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I can't remember the name of the word. They
cult?
Well, geez, Jordan.
They excommunicated him.
They excommunicated him. There's a word they use for that. He was
it's not shunned.
Disfellowshipped.
Disfellowshipped.
Yeah, disfellowshipped from the Kingdom Hall, and so he's pretty much spilling the beans about what happens behind the doors. So, so it's gonna be interesting. You like
that?
I like
yes.
So I think he's gonna be an interesting guy.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, you heard it. Next week, folks, listen up. We'll have Daniel Chamberlain spilling the beans about what goes on behind closed doors at the Jehovah's Witness.
And we've got to. I mean, was it 1 week ago today that we put out the thing for the pin trip?
Uh-huh.
We only have 70, halfway through almost.
All right, book it quick.
I mean, they're going quick. They're going fast. Got to get them while they're hot.
And this is we were planning if we booked it up fast that we'd get another night. This is the only day available for the rest of the year.
Wow.
This is it. Got in right at the end.
Do or die, folks.
So if you're not hitting it hard soon, then you're going to have to wait to come with us next year.
And April
Wow.
17th is the deadline. We have to have the money to the prison
Okay.
by the 22nd. They said a month before, so if we don't get it to them, they won't give us tonight. They'll get mad at us.
Okay.
So, okay?
April, we need the money by
April 17th.
2009.
All right,
Alrighty.
folks, that's it for this week. Next week, we'll be on Wednesday, hopefully, if John willing. Until then, everybody, don't be afraid, only believe.
Pulling out at first dawn's light. Gotta free my mind, get you out of sight.